Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of Trident Talks. I'm Rosie, a senior consultant over at Trident, and I'm delighted to be joined by Micha, one of the founders, but also the CEO of Hush Security. Now, before I ramble on, because I can definitely do that, we would love to hear a little bit from yourself about obviously who you are and what really got you into the position you are today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosie. And hi, everyone. So my name is Micha Rave, co-founder and CEO of our security. I'm part of a four co-founder team and partners that we have been working together for the past decade. We started off at our previous company. We did some amazing stuff around ZTNA and SASE. The company was acquired by Proofpoint. And
Mm.
a year and a half ago, we kind of decided to move out and disrupt another, kind of a very big challenge that was haunting us and plaguing the industry, to be honest, for a very long time. And this is the risk that is coming from using static credentials when using machine-to-machine authentication.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we'll definitely, I guess, dive more into kind of the team dynamic and the product itself. But I think every kind of startup has that incredible founding story that we need to dive into a bit more. And I know you guys have worked with each other, which is awesome. I think we're seeing that kind of all the conversations I'm having kind of more and more. Was there, I guess, a specific kind of moment or insight that really sparked that interest that we need to found kind of Hush
Hmm.
Security?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we were acquired in 2019 by Proofpoint, and the company had the previous company had a very, very good mentality of security by design and very good hygiene around security in general. But it when we were onboarded to Proofpoint as a new group, a new BU, then one of the first things that the information security team asked us was that we need to rotate the keys that we are using at very high cadence. Proofpoint is a public security company was at the time, and this was very important to them. And so it doesn't matter how good you are, and how good is your hygiene. When you need to rotate keys, it's always something that you keep pushing to the last Friday of the last week of the last quarter that it
Mm,
needs to be done. And the reason is very simple. It's very hard to do it. There are no tools today that allows you to know exactly what you're doing and to govern any of those identities and
yeah.
secrets. And then when you actually do the rotation and you replace everything, there is no way today, not a systematic, persistent way to know that everything you did was right. So you kind of do everything you do, kind of switch it on and really pray that you haven't missed anything and everything is in order. And so that was kind of a big moment for us saying, this must have been solved somehow
Mm,
elsewhere in the industry. And so we kind of looked around in different domains, right? So machine-to-machine authentication is really using relics of the past in terms of how they do it today. But we kind of looked at adjacent domain, and we didn't have to go too far because one of the places we've seen that done very well is human authentication, right? So we are
mm,
talking about machine authentication, but human authentication has already been solved. And if not completely solved, at least it's been matured to a very good place today. And so you in most companies, you have identity or IAM, identity and access management
mm,
teams, that they have a mandate of using those tools and enforcing everything that they own. And so think about single sign-on, multi-factor authentication,
yeah.
IGA, PAM, privileged access management, all of those tools, the mature tools coming from titans of the industry, CyberArk and Palo now and a lot of SailPoint and Okta and so forth. This is the standard de facto. So every time a user need to authenticate, they use one of those tools and they get governance and they get posture and so forth. Machine to machine authentication, which is actually two orders of magnitude bigger of a problem than humans, hasn't the privilege of using any of those tools. So everything is very manual, labor intensive, and risk prone. And so
Oh,
we thought we want to apply the same principle that worked for human. We just want to apply them for machine to machine as well. And this is what we set up to build with Hash.
Awesome. Thank you for kind of running through that. I think it's always good for the listeners to kind of have, I guess, even just like a high level overview of what you guys are doing. And I'm sure they can go away and do a load of research and we can dive into it a lot more. I guess thinking about kind of your previous ventures and then moving to Hush, what do you think what makes this one different, I guess? Even though, yes, very much the same core kind of maybe
Mm.
founding team, you obviously know how each other works, which is fantastic. What makes this one different?
So first of all, it's the exact same team. So it's very important that we work so well together, and we already know like a family, right? Everyone knows is what they need to do and where their
Um,
roles start and end, and so that's a very good starting point. Not only the founding team is the same, but also almost the entire team has kind of trickled its way, from
wow.
not only from Proofpoint, but from also from other
Hmm.
places they worked, and they came back to work, or with the team on this cutting edge product. One of the things, so first of all, amazing team and amazing family that we work with. People coming in and they start producing at very high velocity because they just know how to work
Yeah.
together, and so that's a very big advantage. The second thing is that we have a lot of experience and knowledge of designing, building, selling and supporting
Mm.
deep tech products, right? And so what we are doing here is basically comprised of a lot of moving parts. We have some static analysis, we have some runtime observability, we have some AI related parts in the product. And so taking it all together, and in a way that you can package that and you can sell and support that in a meaningful way, this is something that is very unique to the team, I would say. And even today, among our competitors, we are a very unique kind of beast, right? Because we do a lot of those things and we fuse them together. We correlate a lot of
Mm.
types of information together, and that allows us, first of all, to be better at discovery of everything that we need, non-human identities and so forth, but also to actually offer remediation, which is something that none of the other players in the field is doing today.
That's amazing to hear as well that, like you said, it's not kind of just the core founding team that have almost come over. It's maybe other people that you've worked with previously in the past. Because, yes, it said a lot about the product, and obviously it's very unique compared to some of the competitors out there. But it also
Yeah.
says a lot about the culture as well. And I think you've obviously built an atmosphere that people want to be a part of, using the words you use there, kind of work at a high velocity, because obviously they know that's what's kind of expected, but they obviously want to be with you as a team as well. Again, which is amazing to hear. I think product
Thank
is, of course, you want to be selling kind of the or working with
you.
the best of the best, but the culture is a huge thing. So kudos to you guys because that's awesome.
Thank you, Rosie.
Of course. Also, so I guess through kind of my research and conversations I've had, obviously with like the wider team as well, there's a tagline that I think you guys are using that's like secretless. I've written down here, secretless access for the agentic era. Could you, I guess, elaborate on that a little bit more and guess discuss how it relates to your mission?
Absolutely. So I think it's better to start off, like 20 years ago, when 25 years ago, when I was starting to, as an engineer, when we used to write code, everything was very static and monolithic, right? All the code was kind of packaged together, and when one piece of software needed to call another piece of software, it was just a function call within, a very big monolithic process. What happened, rapidly in this last 20 years is that everything changed from completely, right? So first of all, we broke up the monolith into microservices, right? So now pieces of software are in different location. Then we took out the software to the cloud, and we started to use SaaSes instead of building our own software, and so forth. So now you have a very complex relationship between the pieces of the software, and they need to establish a very strong trust between them in order to work. That trust, unfortunately, hasn't changed compared to what we were doing 20 years ago. So, in order to establish trust, you need some kind of key, or a credential, or a certificate, or whatever the form of that happens. But this is a very bad way of establishing trust, right? And so imagine it's not very different from, think about your house, right? You have a key. The key is physical, and you take it. You go to, wherever, create a copy for
Hmm.
you keep that in your purse, in your wallet, whatever the case is. And then if that key somehow gets lost, then anyone that find that key can go to your door and open
Yeah.
that lock. There is nothing that guards that on top of this, and there is no way for you to know that necessarily that key has been stolen and been reused in other places. And so imagine that now in modern environment, you have thousands and sometimes tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of
Mhm.
those keys. And so the way to copy them and the way to use them and to abuse them, there are no tools today that shows you where they are and what they're doing and if they're being used correctly. And every time you need to rotate that key, you need to replace that key because of all of this. You need to rotate it several times a year. Every time, so you need to make another copy, put it in a safe location, tell the engineering team where the key is and how to use it. And so in the same analogy of, the key to your house,
Mhm.
we are replacing that key with a digital lock on your door. So now everyone that wants to enter your house needs to present a PIN code and then maybe like a biometric,
Good.
method like fingerprints and so forth.
Hmm.
So no keys at all, right? That's the first thing. So you cannot lose
Hmm.
them. And then the second thing is a much stricter security around, who is coming to your house. So you have a second factor. You need to put your finger or your eye or, or your voice, whatever the case
Hmm.
is. And so this is what we're building. We are kind of replacing, the old physical static key that we're used to. There still are the what powers every modern environment, but we are replacing them with just-in-time identity-based access. So if the situation was that before hash, if a machine needs to connect to, let's say, OpenAI to run a query, you need to extract the key from OpenAI, put it in a vault, tell the engineering team that they need to call OpenAI with this particular secret. Now, and that secret can be stolen, it could be abused, and so forth. Now, with Dash, when that machine wants to talk to OpenAI, they don't need a key. They just try and create that connection. Hash will examine the identity of the caller, making sure that it is who
Oh.
they claim they are. So this is based on cryptographic, exchange. And then, if it is the right identity, we provide a short-lived ephemeral key for it to actually access OpenAI, and that key is then destroyed, so no one else can steal
I
that
knew
and
that.
abuse it. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Okay, so I guess the question I've got off the back of that is, what are the feedback are you getting from people kind of using this? And I don't expect you to name a customer or anything like that, give away your secrets. But I guess like engineers and developers, they're kind of known for maybe not loving introductions of new products and everything. What kind of feedback are you getting?
I think the feedback, especially from engineering and DevOps team, is great because this is
Oh.
something that is very hard for them to do today, right? It's kind of it's a thing that it's a hurdle they need to go through and they need to write business logic and progress the business forward. So now we provide them a way that is seamless, transparent for them, and much easier to manage. And so they are happy. On the other side, the security teams, and the CISOs and all that organization is happy as well because for the first time they have visibility and they have control over what happens around that area. And just to kind of throw another, some more into this fire is agentic AI coming in very strong now, just amplifies the problem in a very, very big way. And why is that?
Yeah.
Because every time you put an agent in your environment, it needs to connect to a lot of systems. And how do you connect them? You need to provide it access and keys and authorization. And all of this just gets, blown into very big proportions. Security and operational teams today, they don't know how to handle that yet, and this is why there's a lot of companies kind of springing up to try and solve that, but it's a big problem and it will take a little time until it will, we will have decent standardized solution for this.
So I guess is that kind of because when I speak to other founders or like people, the security leaders in the space, it's kind of agentic AI is doing amazing things. And obviously, 18 months ago, it didn't really exist. And now it's kind of
Yes.
everyone seems to be jumping on it. I guess it can, I don't really have as many conversations, maybe saying how much of a risk it could be as well. It sounds
Yes.
like, I guess, in this identity space as well, it's causing, or it could potentially cause some risk.
It's an immense risk because everything we did before, it just, as I said, just amplifies that,
Yeah.
10 or 15 time more. And every time an agent, you want to have an agent that is productive, right? So in order to do productive work, it needs to connect to a lot of systems within your environment, maybe to your Zendesk, maybe to your Jira, or to your ticketing system, or whatever the case of that agent is. In order to do that, you need to provide him trust and access, and this is very hard to do today. And I think a lot of our customers are really struggling with that concept. They have
Yeah.
some kind of imperative from management that they need to introduce some agent and some AI into the product. But what about the security? And they are now kind of facing a very, very hard decision, whether they compromise on security and give it wider access, maybe positioning themselves to be the next breach that you read tomorrow,
Yeah.
but satisfying the business needs, or maybe they kind of stop that. They need to learn it, and that will take them, months to actually come up with a good strategy, which doesn't exist today
Mhm.
quite well.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see what the next, I guess, like 6 to 12 months look like, even just focused on that, like agentic AI space and what I
Absolutely.
guess is able to kind of come through on the security side as well. You mentioned, sorry, this is kind of going back a little bit about kind of machine identities.
Yeah.
For, I guess, the listeners that maybe haven't come across that term before, I guess, do you mind going into a little bit of detail of what that looks like and maybe why it is becoming kind of one of the fastest growing, I guess, like attack surfaces?
Yes. Yes, it's a good question. And machine identities is basically every time a machine needs, as I said, to access another
Mm.
machine or another service or another SaaS, that machine needs some kind of an identity to work with and be identified across from the other side. The issue with this is that a long time ago, we had very few machines that to start with, and then those machines were static by nature. You spin up a big VM, it does it works for years, and then you replace it with a new version. But today, the modern architecture of software has dramatically changed, and now you've got, pods, Kubernetes or ECS or whatever Docker you're using, whatever flavor you are using. But eventually, those are ephemeral identities that kind of spring into action and go back down. Sometimes take seconds, sometimes minutes, but we have a lot of those. So this is now not about few machines that you know and trust. This is about thousands of ephemeral workload that are spinning up and down every
Wow.
second in your environment. And so this is why it kind of become a very, very big attack surface compared to where we used to be, like let's say 10 years ago or so. And those identities and the credential they use is completely unprotected and ungoverned today.
Wow. It's
Mhm.
completely different from kind of, I guess, conversations that like I'm having with like identity vendors, for example. I
Yeah.
feel like there's not even being kind of almost like thought of, which is scary, I guess, in one aspect, and I'm sure that people listening as well. Thank you for kind of running through that because I think it's always good just to have a clear kind of understanding and definition. I guess kind of shifting back into, I guess, your role at the moment and your background as well, into thinking about kind of scaling an organization. It obviously involves a lot of moving parts and a lot of kind of shifts and potentially pivots as well. Have you come across in the last, I appreciate you only recently kind of came out of stealth, but any challenges when it's come to either like the tech adoption or is it the market education?
I think it's a good question in the sense that we are still in a very early market, right? And you mentioned that identity today is very much associated with humans. When you go
Hmm.
into any company and then look at the identity team or the IAM team, they are predominantly focused on humans, and eventually that would machine identity as well will fall into the identity team. but I think it's going to take some time. So today, when we go to, when we pitch our tech to big companies, it's typically a combination of the CISO, the security team that needs to get a hold of what is going on, and then the operation team, the DevOps, sometimes the engineering that actually has this problem that they need to enable thousands of identities to work now, and both of those personas, they have a problem at hand that is really happening. And so we still need to do some market education, because not all teams are up to speed, and we need to get to the right person inside the company. But once we do, they fully understand what we have, and this is how we break through.
I guess they see how critical it is. How have you, I guess, been able to find who your like ICP is? Because it seems like this would work really well for like really large enterprises, like global banks, maybe even governments. Is that kind of where like Hush is looking at?
We are looking, basically, this problem exists for any company that has more than five engineers in the team, right? So
Oh,
so
wow.
that's like yeah, but we are not targeting obviously those smaller one at this point of time. We are starting anything from mid-market and SMBs, right? Any companies, let's say 500, 1,000 employees. This is where we start, because they already have a CISO and maybe compliances that they need to go through. And so we are starting from there, but the upper range is definitely big enterprises as well as government
Yeah.
agencies and so forth. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, I'm really excited to kind of see what the next, I guess, like 6 to 12 months and obviously beyond looks. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of changes in the industry anyway. Is there, I guess, any goal or growth level you're looking at kind of in the next year? Is it expanding globally? I don't expect you to tell me the product secrets or anything, but expanding the product portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot on our plates, and in terms of the roadmap, so many exciting things coming within, both the short term, the mid term, and the long term. And in order to cater, very big enterprises, so there's still stuff that we need to complete, in terms of compliances. We're just finishing our ISO, and we will continue with additional ones as required by our prospects and customers. And of course, in the product, there are so many exciting things, right? We just, we GA the first part, the first module in the product a few months ago, and it's selling quite well. Now we are going to into beta with the second part of the product that actually manages the keys. And this is a very unique offering in the industry, and we're super excited how it's going to be, sold and accepted by the market. And so on top of that, we've got so many exciting things coming up next year. And also we need to grow the team in terms of engineering, go to market. We are very much focused in the US at the moment, eventually go to EMEA as well. But there's a lot on every kind of a dimension. We've got so many exciting things coming up. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that happen.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure the listeners are as well. And we'll drop loads of kind of links and everything into our Spotify and YouTube. So if anyone wants to reach out, they can kind of direct as well, just to learn more about what you guys are doing. So excited to see the progress. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. And I just want to say one last thing. We just had this, very important breach 2 days ago, the Shai
Mm.
Hulud next second coming. And Hash is catering both our customers. We help them to see if they are compromised or not. But we are also offering free assessment for anyone that wants to see if they have been
Mm.
compromised. They are happy to drop into our website and fill up the request, and we'll be happy to help them.
Awesome. That's amazing. Okay, cool. We'll definitely get that out there as well. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much, Rosie.